So today our podcast is going to be with Ben Savage from Savage Builds, and he's going to take us through a bit of his history from how he started construction, flipping houses, building houses, and now working on energy efficient homes. And we're going to kind of go through the story. So let's start, Ben, if we can, at what got you into construction?
When I was a kid, I guess I always liked building things. I grew up in the country and building forts and stuff. Never thought of it till I was older. I ended up getting I'm a Christian, so I went to a Bible school, got a theology degree.
Nice.
And then
JC had one too.
Oh yeah. I don't know.
He was a carpenter.
I don't know if he got a degree or not.
All right, I'm sorry. I will stop. You just carry on.
Yeah. So anyway, I used to work on maintenance at the school a little bit. I liked it. I graduated. I wasn't really sure if I wanted to be a pastor or any of that or that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Figured we'd just work and live, and something came up, we'd take it. And someone just offered me a job to work in construction. That was basically it. Didn't apply for anything. Just someone offered me a job to try it out, so I did. That was in Fredericton here. And I worked as a youth pastor as well, part-time, for about 8 years. And I was working construction.
That's awesome.
So I kind of did both.
Did you work for many construction companies?
I worked for 2 companies.
Okay.
So I started one kind of like a commercial window and door glazing company, and did that for a little bit, and then realized I like building quite a bit, so I wanted to learn more things. So I ended up switching to a different type of company that builds like residential and commercial, kind of a general contractor.
Okay.
So learned a bit more, kind of as I was going. Got exposed to a wide range of things. Got the opportunity to learn some business skills. The guy I worked for was kind of entrepreneurish himself. So, like for example, like when I was working for the door company, we didn't have work for a week, so make up a flyer and go
Find some work.
Go sell yourself to some companies.
Yep.
So, I was young then. I would have been like 21, 22. But like that would, that kind of experience kind of...
Yeah, it sticks with you.
It gets your feet wet.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
You realize it's not as easy as you think just to sell.
You got to hit the streets running and actually
yeah.
introduce yourself to random strangers and say, hey, I can build. Would you like to hire me?
Yeah, so I did that, got a bit of that kind of, just that little bit of a feeling of trying to do things on your own. The company I worked for was good. They let me like kind of do my own thing and look after projects and kind of get some of those skills that kind of led me to think like I like doing my own thing. I like controlling my own projects. I'm task oriented. I like completing a project and working for a customer. So kind of doing that, and then always thinking, hey, I'm gonna flip a house, because everybody does it on TV and stuff.
Just before you get into the flipping a house, how many employees do you have currently?
There's 6 of us right now.
You have a staff of 6 people, including you.
Yeah.
Okay. Carry on.
But at that time, it would have been
just
him.
Yeah. Yep.
So it was me. I was working kind of like as a project manager for another company.
Sure.
And
Great company.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I'm still friends with those guys. They're good guys. So I worked there, and it was just me and my wife for a couple of years, and talked about flipping all the time. Never did it until we had a kid. I don't know, when you have a kid, it makes you just realize.
Oh, yeah. Life is real now.
So
I'm
you're
an
like,
adult.
I got to like do something other than, I got to move a step ahead. Am I going to do this just this way the rest of my life, or do I want to move ahead? So we kind of, in the long term, always saw, okay, we're going to own our own company. And in the short term, I saw a lot of other guys that I knew that would start a construction company, but you don't have any cash to work with. You're like building decks and doing little jobs, trying to work your way up to and you're getting bigger and bigger projects and learning with your own money as you go. So I decided the company I work with, they were fine with me flipping our own house and doing a couple side projects and having a separate company that to do that with. And we kind of the business way we looked at it is, the plan was we would flip a few houses, build some spec houses, I would work full time for the company I was at. So I was getting the experience from that.
Sure.
But I was also getting my own business experience and
Up and going.
getting your cash flow going. And the idea was I wouldn't go on my own until I had enough cash flow that I could actually be building houses rather than doing decks and things like that. Right. So that I saw it as a faster way to build your company as opposed to starting with just a small amount and working your way up.
Yep, that makes sense.
So we did it that way. We flipped some houses. That's where I met Chris.
Gotcha.
Yep. Mutual friend kind of gave me the lead, and then I started bugging Ben until I got the listing, and
away you went.
So I wasn't going to use a realtor at all because I'm more like a do-it-yourself person. Like,
sure.
They make way too much money. I'll sell it myself, right? Like,
same with contractors.
So
thanks for the plug, Ben.
Sorry. Well, no. So Chris comes in. He's a friend of we have a mutual friend. So he comes over to see me. We're flipping a house, and we're right down in the dirty of it. So he comes in. He says, I said I wasn't really planning on using a realtor, like, but Chris just said to me, hey, well, if I bring an offer, you going to say no to it? And I'm
right.
like, well, no, I'll
take a look at it.
I'll look at the offer. So, and Chris said, well, I'm probably going to sell it for whatever the percentage was at the time. I'll sell it for that percentage more than you're going to sell it on your own anyway. So I might as well do it for you.
Nice work.
So that was
10 houses later. We're still doing business.
You're still doing business.
So,
I love it.
Anyway, I did learn the value. That was one of the lessons you learned along the way, right? Like I learned the value of that job because I don't like trying to sell my own product to somebody. Like
there's a fine line of doing everything for yourself and then selling your own product.
It's because you don't really know how to do it that well.
Yeah.
But and the value is, I think Chris has sold all of our houses for more than I would have sold them. So when you look at the commission going out, like that's just money that I wouldn't have made anyway. That's money that a realtor has made, not money that I'm losing.
That's right.
Right. But
sure.
The temptation is to look at a deal and you see all the money there and you see, oh, look at that going that way.
Yeah.
That's my money that left.
Right.
Right. But that's not the way
it's a cost of doing business.
Yeah. So that's just those things that you learn, right? Like as
absolutely.
you're moving along. So that's how I met Chris.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, but since then, so we met on Canada Street, and in Marysville alone, you did that first flip. Then you built a fantastic house, which was the first one. I think that was on I don't want to give out their address, but yeah, it was on Canada Street, and that was fantastic. And you've been building bigger, more beautiful homes. Now as Dave mentioned, you've gotten into 6 employees, but you're working on some energy efficient homes. So what are some of the things that you do with your homes that make them a little bit more unique? Because I believe the one we just sold on Mactaquac Heights was in a very high efficiency energy rating. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, like we kind of, as I've built and people start asking for more energy efficient things, and the building inspector comes over and says like, well, so the code changed here when I don't know, when I was younger and building, and then the energy. So you had to bring up the R value of the walls. So the building inspector.
What is it R83?
R9 point.
Our Energuide 83. That was the word I was looking for. Is that the new standard of building?
I don't know what that standard is. To be honest with you, we're well above it. So I haven't looked at energy minimums for years. So like when you would build like close to the code, you're doing like a RSI calculation where you're like, oh, I gotta figure out exactly what this is, because you got to you're trying to build it as cheap as you can without.
Yeah.
And we don't build that way, so I haven't done that in a long time because we're always way above it.
Sure.
We're not really looking at that sort of thing. But what the building inspector come by and say, hey, just throw this foam on your wall, and I'm looking at that and. You're looking and you say, okay, but then you think of some of the problems that start arising. Just putting like a vapor barrier foam on your wall, and you already have a vapor barrier inside, so you got nowhere for water to go, and you start, looking things up and learning some different things. So we're definitely into the energy efficient and making the house better. It's not like our first thing that we look at in a house. We use 3 things like responsibility, longevity, and then efficiency comes after that. So it's an important part, but it's the third one. Because if you can just make a house more efficient, but if you make it less durable, or you cut the longevity of the house, you're not building
That is a really good point.
not much better of a house, right? So there's a lot of stories or people you see like, the house isn't doing.
It's supposed to be doing.
Yeah, it's not.
What were your three? Responsibility?
For our company, it's responsibility, longevity, and efficiency. They're not like our I shouldn't say they're not like our company values, but they're the values that we look at when we're planning a house,
Sure.
how we're going to build it, right?
Right.
So like, I mean, if you just give me $100,000, stick it on your house, like you can just buy insulation and put it on your house, but that might not be the best way of looking at the situation, right? So if you, for example, you see a lot of people might just put like some foam on the wall to let's just bring up the R value, right? If you did the wrong foam on your wall, you're going to make your house a lot less longer lasting because you're going to introduce moisture issues to your house. If you just make your house better insulated so that you reduce your heating load, you can run into more moisture problems. You can run into mold problems just by making things airtight without planning a way for it to dry.
Right. You got to have the right
So,
airflow throughout your house.
yeah,
to
so
make it
some of that
breathe.
stuff's a little technical, but the point is that we don't just take insulation and just stick it on the house. We have a plan in place how we're going to do it, and you adjust that depending on the budget. So really the way I look at insulation, it's a economic number. It's just whatever amount of money you want to put into the house and the insulation side, you can weigh that against how green you want your house to be, or how much you want your house to cost and heating, what the payback is. You can measure it by those different ways, but it's ultimately an economic thing of just how much you want to put into it. The way you do it is a lot more important.
And is that in the responsibility side of things? Because I'm curious to ask you, tell me more about being a responsible builder. What does that mean to you?
Well, when I talk to a customer comes to you and say, oh, we want to build an energy efficient house, right? So that means something different to everybody.
Of course.
Right? That can mean a passive house where you don't need any heating. That can mean, oh, I just want it to be a little better than the neighbor's house. So when they're looking at us, like we want to build a house, and I can just order really fancy windows and throw it in the house and then cost a bunch of money. But if I only put a little bit of insulation in the attic, all that you've gained from the windows,
Right.
spending all that money, you're not really gaining because the attic is only got a little bit of insulation in it, right? So you want to take a balanced approach to the whole project.
Yeah.
And educating the client on what they're actually receiving for the dollar.
So responsibility for us is that we're responsible with the client's money.
Just move the mic closer to your face. I was trying not to
Oh.
bring that apparent.
He tickled me. I didn't know.
So the responsibility comes into like when we're working with a client, we're going to be responsible with their money, because they're going to use our judgment to say where to put insulation. Do you spend money on windows? Do you spend money on your attic insulation? Do you spend money on your walls? Do you put a better foundation in? Do you spend money on better appliances or water heating?
How educated are clients these days when they come to you?
More so than before.
Yeah,
It kind of depends
we're in
on
a
what
research age. Like YouTube has really created.
Yeah.
I know everything about everything. I find in our industry, I'm just curious how it is in the building world.
Yeah, people know a lot more. They know less about like, oh, well, this is how I did it with my grandpa when we built the house.
Sure.
It's more like, I saw this on YouTube. This is a real cool product. Let's use this product.
Yep. Saw this on TikTok.
Yeah. And I mean, I like it because I'm more the client that's going to be attracted to us as a client that's seen energy efficient things done and can appreciate it. And they want that in their house. So we take like some of the knowledge they have, and that interest is enough that we can work with.
Sure.
So I prefer someone to have some interest and have some knowledge ahead of time.
About what you're building as a product, because then it means something at the end of the day. That's cool.
So when we look at it, so with the responsibility, that's we're going to be responsible with your money, because that's ultimately what your house is. You're going to put it's a lot of people, it's their biggest investment of their life, and they're planning to spend most of their life in that thing.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So we want to be responsible. The second thing is longevity. We want to build a house that lasts a long time. And inside longevity is things like sustainability, things like making the house look good, if you build a house that's going to last for 50 years, or do you want to build a house that'll last for 150 or 200 years? Like, what's the difference between those two houses? So you might build a bad house and it lasts for 50 years, but no one really knows that.
Of course.
For 50 years.
Until 50 years is up and it's like, oh boy.
But what's the difference between a house that lasts for 50 years and one that'll last for 150, 200, right? And you can look at that in the type of houses that are around and how they're built now, because you can go look at what's about a 250-year-old house in Fredericton.
Right.
What's about those houses that
it's still
there.
going. Yeah.
So one of the things is they look good.
Yeah.
People don't just tear down things that
don't look good. Yeah.
If things don't look good, it's going to get torn down no matter how efficient it is or how durable it is.
Nobody's taking the time to invest in keeping it with the time.
So longevity lands in there. Also in particular to energy efficiency, longevity is all about moisture management. That's the difference between a house that lasts for 50 years and a house that lasts for 250 is how it's managing its moisture.
I didn't want to go down this road, but I'm very curious because the HRVs are like the bane of my existence right now. Nobody knows how to use them. I just had to go through a whole explanation on why people are now using engineered hardwood, a lot more composite, a lot more vinyl. The 3 1/4 inch hardwood floors are almost non-existent because they used to always cup. Tell me a little bit what you find or what you feel in the world of moisture. Like, explain that in layman's terms.
Well, you think of like when they say like, oh, they don't build it like they used to, right? Like, take that same thought and apply it to housing, and look at some of the old houses. So there's old houses downtown or any old place,
sure,
that have no insulation, are just made of wood, have wood siding, and they've been there for 150 years, and it's
true though.
That makes perfect sense. Okay,
that's due to the fact that it's they're designed on first principles of they don't have a moisture problem, because any water that gets into that place, because they have big heating systems.
Yeah.
If water gets in that wall, it just dries it right out, because it's got all kinds of heat being pumped into the house, right? So if you imagine an old house, let's say it has 2 wood stoves running 200,000 BTU of heat all the time. So it's just cooking it like an oven, like it's keeping everything dry.
Yeah.
Stuff can get wet, but it can dry. Stuff can get wet and it can dry. It's managing the moisture.
Interesting.
It's not as pleasant on the energy bills.
Of course.
Right? It worked back then, but now it kind of, in the evolution of things, people look at that like, we don't want to pay this much for energy anymore. Let's throw some insulation in it. So,
well, and the airtight is such a big thing now, right? Like some of those old houses were meant to breathe more than they are now.
Yeah, they dry really well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So they last a long time.
When you're
that's
working
why
with...
you can stick wood on wood on wood, and it'll just be fine. Because it's drying. If you look at in the evolution of things, you guys sell houses. You've been in old houses. Some houses they've thrown some insulation in there, no vapor barrier or anything.
Yeah.
So the first step is, let's throw some insulation in there. The sales guy comes by, says, hey, this will make your house cheaper to heat
on a monthly basis.
Right. So let's throw that in there. Now, put that in, worked great. 20 years down the road, you get all kinds of moisture problems in your house. You get mold starting to grow inside the walls, because you've taken that 200,000 BTU heating system, you've taken that down to 100,000. So there's less heat being pushed into the house. Mm-hmm. So there's points where your dew point can land inside that, is moving in closer to your inside walls. So it's not getting heat to all those outside sidings. It's not getting the potential to dry all those things.
Of course.
So then in reaction to that, you see vapor barriers start adding. You put like plastic on the inside of the walls, and that helps keep moisture out of the wall. But it's a reactive problem. It's trying to solve the problem of insulation in the wall. So then you have older houses often get insulated, and then they end up reducing their longevity because of the way that it's managing the moisture in the walls. And then when you get to putting vapor barriers in, so that helps out, it's still a reactive problem. But if you make any mistakes, you have points of moisture that are causing mold. Anywhere there's moisture, it's going to build up, it's going to get moldy. So then you end up with a lot of those sort of problems happening. And then as you increase the insulation, you're reducing your heating load and you're reducing that drying potential of the house. And then And then nowadays we have vapor barrier on the inside, and then if someone comes by and said, "Hey, let's make it even more insulated. Let's put a vapor barrier on the outside too, with like a."
And now you're trapping all the moisture
now
inside the walls.
you're reducing your ability to dry even more.
Interesting.
So all those things start adding up, and it's not really like someone designed a bad house. It's just like we build something, let's do something. Oh, that caused a problem, let's fix it.
Yeah.
That caused a problem, let's fix it. So if we just if you just have a bunch of money, hey, we'll throw a bunch of stuff at the house. If you don't do it in the right way,
Yeah, you got to be very cautious.
yeah, you got to be cautious. So the biggest principle is like you have to have a way for your house to dry. So it's got to all your walls and ceilings, everything has to be able to dry either to the outside or to the inside.
Interesting.
So an
So-
HRV controls
Yeah.
the inside moisture of the house.
Okay. And are they as effective as they used to be, or better, or more energy efficient? Like everyone, MB Power is really pushing these ductless heat pumps, and I know they have a dehumidifying effect to them. In the building world, do you find them as a pro or a negative, or?
Oh yeah, they're good. I mean, they'll dehumidify in the summer just because when you cool air, it loses moisture.
Sure.
So just by the fact that it's cooling air, it's dehumidifying. It won't dehumidify in the winter. So in our climate right now, the majority of our moisture issues are happening in the winter, not the summer.
Okay.
Because in the summer, your moisture is outside,
Yeah.
and it's trying to get in.
Yeah.
Which we don't get a ton of moisture because we don't have a lot of humid days out of the year. And when you're cooling on the inside, when you put an air conditioner in, you're cooling that air inside, so you're reducing the moisture inside the house.
Right.
In the winter, the moisture is inside because the outside air is dry.
Right.
So you're producing a bunch of moisture in your house, and so especially the places like your bathrooms and places, they're going to get
Yep.
they're going to get
moisture.
a lot more moisture.
Yep.
And the more you've insulated your house, you get a lot less heat going through the whole house. So it's going to potentially get a lot more mold issues.
Gotcha.
So an HRV, when it's running in the winter, is going to dehumidify your house
Okay.
because it's bringing outside air in and sending the inside
Moisture
air out.
out.
So the outside air brings in,
Yeah.
even though the relative humidity might be similar, like you see in the weather report, that's a relative to the air temperature.
Okay.
So the actual amount of water is in the air. The absolute humidity is very low. So when it brings in air on the outside, it keeps it dry.
Well, even with internal ventilation systems, right? So having that, most of the range hoods in our part of the province don't vent outside. Like very few do. So that's something else that's adding to the moisture. The bathroom ceiling fans is another one that was code, not code, was code. You know what I mean? So that's something else. What is the current code on bathroom fans? I don't think you currently need one, do you?
No, and we don't put them in our houses, and we don't vent the range hoods mostly, unless you're using gas.
Right.
Because we're taking a first principle approach, kind of back to how the old house was built, where we want to design a house where we don't actually care if there's moisture in the wall because it has a way to dry.
Okay.
So like the old houses lasted not because they kept moisture out, it's because they let moisture. It's because they could let moisture out, so they could get wet and leak, and it's fine.
Not a big deal.
It's not a big deal to dry out.
Interesting.
So that's the first principle we go by. Like we want to build a house that can always dry on its own. So the way we would build a wall, for instance, if
I
we
was hoping
designed
you
a
were going to
wall-
go into more detail on that because after saying that you let moisture into your houses, I'm like, please
we
finish
don't
that.
let it in intentionally. We don't let it in intentionally, but like the difference between a house that's going to last for 50 and it lasts for 200 years. So, if you just seal everything perfectly, it'll last, but sealants will fail eventually.
Yeah.
When they fail, you want to have a way that it can manage it. So we don't let water in the house intentionally. We keep it out, but we don't rely on sealants. We want the house to be able to dry.
Absolutely.
So breathe is not quite, because
Okay.
breathe is letting air in and out.
Okay.
We just want it to dry. That's it.
Huh.
So you want it to be good and airtight. Is going to control in an energy efficient house. You want really good air tightness is one of your biggest ones, because anywhere there's air moving, you're going to have potential for that to carry moisture with it, and that's where you're going to get condensation. And that's where you're going to get mold. So when we build, we do it. We make all of our walls to be vapor open, so they can all dry to the inside of the house. So when you control your indoor humidity with your ERV or your HRV, you're controlling the humidity of your walls as well. So I'm not worried about moisture getting into the wall because the wall can always dry. I'm not worried about the way that we build. We keep the majority of our insulation on the outside of the house, not
Okay.
in the walls. like wearing a jacket rather than stuffing insulation in your ribs. But it's more effective in the sense that you're insulating the entire structure, not just in between the structure. And you put your dew point, the condensation point, is always outside
Further
of the
out.
house, is never coming into the house. So if you get moisture in our wall, I don't really care. Like it'll dry. It's not going to condensate because the wall's always warm.
That's fantastic.
And then when you switch that, like part of longevity is you have to, nowadays the way we think about it, it's with climate changing. So there's areas like in New York, I think some of it's changing climate zones. Here we're kind of changing climate. We get a lot more humid days than we used to.
Sure.
So we want a wall that works in both climates, that can work in a warm climate. If you want to build a house that lasts for 200 years,
it's
got to be designed
last
to work in
climate,
another climate. If it's going to be different in 200 years, you don't
Right.
know.
Interesting.
I want to take this in a little bit of a different direction. So I want to talk about sort of some of what has it been like to grow your staff, grow your team? I think it's fairly safe to be unsure of how the business is going to grow, right? So you took the leap of faith to go out on your own. Kind of talk me through that process. What was it like?
We did it during COVID. So like I was planning to leave eventually, and then kind of COVID hit, and we're like, oh, maybe not a good time to do it. We were selling a house at the time too, and you were sending realtors over. Like I was leaving the keys, and someone would go look at it without meeting them. So we were selling a house, and we're like, man, this is not a good time to start. So, but then just early into that summer, it seemed we were building.
Demand started building.
Yeah, it was clear that stuff was going to be fine. So, I let my employer know, like, hey.
Was that Moss?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the house you sold for like. Well, like if we had kept that for 6 months, it would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hindsight's
like,
2020.
like everybody's got one of those houses, right?
Yeah,
Through
we all
COVID,
have those
for sure.
stories.
Yeah.
Why didn't we just buy that 3 years ago?
Right.
Ah.
But the one he bought directly after, had we waited 6 months, he'd have paid twice as much
Yeah,
for.
exactly.
So
Yeah. No, it all works out. So anyway, that when
thank Ben for his last time on the show. It was great. It's awesome.
no, I mean we got what we wanted for it, so that was nice. Chris did a good job there.
Just great job.
Just
Chris.
6 months later, we wanted more.
Yep.
So anyway, we thought it would be a good time. We were building our own house, so I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna let my employer know I think I'm done. We already had the company going for a couple of years. Me and my brother and I, because my brother is also an electrician, so he kind of started
Perfect.
with us.
Yep.
So the first house, he was like 18, so he couldn't even be on the mortgage. But then we kind of worked. So at that point, he had a house we were working on. I had our house we were building that we were probably going to move into this one. So, just decided, hey, we'll quit now and just let my employer know. And it was being part of that company. I thought it was a good time for that company as well.
Sure.
So I thought it worked out.
Yep.
Both ways. So we just started working on our own and.
Now, when you have 6 staff, are they all carpenters? Is there one electrician, one plumber? How do you?
No, my brother's an electrician.
Sure.
So he has his own company as well now too. So
Okay. Great.
So he does my.
And what's his company?
Savage Electric.
Savage Electric. There you go. Perfect.
So so he does that. He does heat pumps and air exchangers, stuff like that too.
Mm-hmm.
So he does our mechanical work. I work with a few different plumbers.
Okay.
And then we haven't hired outside of like a general contractor position. You could down the road maybe, but I work with my brother anyway, so he covers a lot of that stuff. So,
Sure.
So we're a general contractor. We hire anybody who wants to work.
Sure. At this day and age.
I get to this point, we can work with anybody because there's a broad range of stuff you can do in construction. So we've had some people work out, some people don't. The hardest thing with a small company is that you get a group of people. Everybody works together all the time, so you can't go work in a corner by yourself.
Right.
So
yeah, everybody's got to get along.
you gotta
Personality is a big thing.
It's kind of a big deal, kind of in our size of company.
Sure.
Well, and in saying that, I've met your guys. Do you know what I mean? You have
Yeah.
a good group that are very well connected. They're friends inside and outside of work. They all get along very well. Like you've got a good community inside of your business where everyone gets along.
Yes, I mean, and we work with other contractors like Farnsworth Interiors does. He does like our drywall and crack filling and painting, and we have some siding guys. That, you know, we sometimes we do our own siding. Sometimes we hire out some things like that to subcontractors, kind of depending on how much work we have going on.
Sure.
And availability, because it's kind of hard to hire.
Yeah, I had a client ask me for a referral on a bathroom renovation, and I was like, well, I will start making some calls, and I will get back to you, because it's hard to find people to do those smaller to mid-sized jobs because there's so much work available.
Yeah, well, it's hard because like we're more set up to build new houses, so to go do a renovation, it's harder than it seems anyway, because it takes a lot more.
What's harder, the renovation or the new build? Is
no harder? Like just to switch to a renovation, do a little renovation, even though it seems like a small amount of work, it's harder because it's kind of like more management for a smaller amount of work.
Okay, let's break that down for the listener who says, I've been trying to find a contractor to renovate my basement or renovate this bedroom or renovate a bathroom. What would you give them as advice to say, if you were looking to hire a contractor to do a mid-sized job, you know, $10,000, $20,000 renovation? Any advice you can give that person as far as having your job lined up, knowing exactly what you want, communicating with a contractor so that the contractor wants your business?
Yeah, I mean, I would look around for a smaller company. Like for those smaller jobs, they're a lot more valuable. Like if I was working by myself, like those jobs are great. And when you hire someone who owns a company, who's him and another person or her and another person, like they're gonna take a lot more pride in that.
That job.
Yeah, and it's not to say we don't take pride in a small job.
I know what you mean though. Like if you're trying to look at your year and you can say, we're going to do these 4 builds of a new construction, to have 6 employees, you can comfortably look at that and go, okay, well, now I know my guys are going to be working. Whereas if you're doing so many of those smaller jobs, and they're not small jobs, but those mid-sized jobs where you've got to take on a bathroom, well, that's great for 4 to 6 weeks, but then what? Yeah. Right? So to constantly have that lined up, as you mentioned in the window and door business, then you didn't have any work for a week, so now it's, okay, now we're hitting the pavement going, looking for new jobs. It's hard with 6 employees to have them all out doing that, I would think.
Yeah, well, it's more like the management time, because if you're building a house, you get a set of plans, and then like we need to have 3 meetings with a customer, and that's it. And you got a $500,000 project that you're going to keep guys busy all the time.
Right.
So
because there's always something to do.
Yeah, there's always stuff to do.
You're not waiting on another trade in order to fill the time.
And we don't need to meet with a customer every second day to say, what do you want to do here? What do you want to do there? Like in a renovation where people are always looking at, you know, it's hard to, I don't even make up my own mind when I renovate stuff myself.
Sure.
Like you keep changing it while you're working.
Yeah.
Whereas a house is more of a straightforward construction project.
Interesting.
Right. So,
yeah.
So like if I have 10 little renovations going for the same amount of, we'll say, money as a new house would be, you got 10 different clients and you got small jobs being done. So you have to bring a guy there, explain this is what we're doing here, right? And it's
a lot more time management.
It's only 2 days. You're going to work here, then you it's to another place. So you got to make sure you have tools for that, and then we got to make sure we get material there for that. So there's a lot more. It's a business too. It's just a higher management type of business, right?
So anybody who wants to get into your business, how would you recommend they start? Go work for a bigger company?
That was going to be my next question is, you know, if you're fresh out of high school, and obviously anyone listening, please encourage people to get into the trades because we need you. Any recommendation for those people just getting started?
Yeah, go work for somebody. Okay. And I mean, you can be honest about it. Like if someone comes to me and says, hey, like I want to learn about construction, I'll probably own my own company in 4 years. Like that's fine.
Okay.
Like, we're not looking to hire people and like you got to be this person the rest of your life.
Right.
I mean, that might be it. Maybe that's an older mentality, you know, the old factory job sort of thing. You find your job, you get a pension, and you do that for 40 years. You know, that's not really what the economy's like anymore. You know, so we're happy to teach you stuff as long as you want to work hard and work with us. You know, we're good for everybody to get ahead. One of my guys is bought a house and is flipping it now too.
Awesome.
We're happy to help him. Like it's a different model. Maybe some of the some of the older model thing like is like, oh, you're going to apprentice with someone and then you got to work there and
And you owe them, and
yeah, you owe
stay
them for
indebted to
working there.
them.
He's like, hey, just come work, and if you like it, we'll pay you what you're worth. And
Sure.
and if you want to go start your own company down the road, that's fine. There's lots of work. We're not building all the houses in Fredericton. We can only build
What you can build.
what you can build. Like,
How do you, with regards to relationships in your clients, how do you maintain a good relationship with your client? Any advice on that? Or any experience, I guess you could say.
I mean, for me, we try to do as much work up front in terms of making sure all the budget's figured out, like, and all the costs are figured out.
Expectations.
So you set the expectation. Like, so my goal in a well-run job is it's going to be exactly the same price when you're done as when you started.
Sure.
So the expectation's there, and the client can plan for that, and it's clear right along the way. So the tendency in some construction industries is, I can give the cheapest price, and then once we get it, like,
add to it.
So we only allow for $2 a foot for your floor. You want a $6 a foot floor? Well, that's gonna cost you extra. So try to be upfront with everything, and not trying to hide. Like, we make money. Like, that's what the point of the business.
job.
Like, it's not like we're hiding it. So
Absolutely.
So I'm not trying to like, oh, they picked a floor for $6 and I'm going to try and get it down to $5 and make $1 on the floor. Like, we set our costs of what it costs to build. We put it in an estimate. We try to be as clear as we can on everything. There's some things that are going to be, they're going to fluctuate based on what the customer wants. Maybe like your excavation, how much landscaping you do, how deep your well is, what type of floor you pick or what type of kitchen you pick. Those things they're in control of. So I make it clear in our estimates, like, this is what you're in control of, this is what I'm in control of. What I'm in control of, the price isn't changing. What you're in control of,
You're going to pay what you pay.
yeah. So the try to be upfront with that sort of stuff, and then I actually ask them, what is your expectation? Like, what type of floor do you want? What type of kitchen do you want? Do you want stone countertops? So
Right.
I'll have that in the budget. So it's an accurate. I want it to be as accurate as possible of a number, not just the lowest number I can to get the job and then move along.
I've also witnessed firsthand sort of your after the sale service to your clients too. If something, and it hasn't been many for the amount of transactions we've done, but you go back and you look after them and you want them. Fredericton's a small city, right? So you want them to really be able to sing your praises.
Yeah, referral base is nice.
Yeah, like we have our normal like warranties and stuff, and we go and fix screw pops and things. I mean, sometimes stuff happens that's like, we had a client with they picked a floor. Seem to be going on flooring a lot now. But anyway, like, they picked a floor and they bought a nicer floor. Like, they actually went above their budget and paid extra for it. Turned out to be a floor that just a few spots were breaking, and it was enough that, like, they really hated the floor. We tried fixing it a few spots and they would keep breaking. The product just wasn't
What the
that
product
great.
was.
And even though they picked the product, at the end of the day, it's my responsibility that we have a house here that I don't want them to be in a house where you're walking the floor every day saying, hey, I hate this house, right? Like, you want.
So was that a case where you call the manufacturer and say, look, your floor's not as durable as what you were?
Yep. I didn't need to go to the manufacturer. We used a local supplier, and they replaced. They cover the cost of a new floor, and
Nice.
then I cover the cost of replacing it all. And at the end of the day, we just replaced it because it's I'd rather the customer be happy in their house.
It was the right thing to do.
Compared to.
Yep.
So when you come down to nickel and diamond things, you can say, oh, that's not under warranty because that was 2 years ago. But
Sure.
at the end of the day, you want someone to like their house.
Yep.
So,
Absolutely.
Oh, that's awesome. Any tips or tricks or advice that you would give for someone who's looking at building a home on a high level? Things to think
Find
about.
someone to build it for you now.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I mean, most people are booked a couple of years.
Wow.
Like, we're booked till, like, we'll be into the next summer if you want to build a house right now.
2025 summer.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
Congratulations. That's a great place to be.
yeah, I don't know if it's due to us or if it's just the fact that
Yep.
the market's
Demand.
that way, right?
Well, somebody does pre-sales for them too, so that probably helps a little. I'm
Shameless plug, Chris. Well done.
just saying.
You're a great realtor, Chris.
Oh, Dave, you didn't have to. That's anyway. But yeah, no. So it seems like things are going good. I wish you continued success in sort of everything that you're doing. What are sort of your future plans for your business?
So like we're building our own house now that we plan to stay in for a while. So we kind of moved around a bunch, but now we're kind of tired of that. So we've been able to work the cash flow of the business up better so that we don't need to use as much personal money as we did when we got started.
Sure.
So that we're able to have a little bit more comfort in how we operate. So the goal for us, we're going to finish our own house now, and then we want to move into we still want to build like our kind of, we'll call it a niche in the market that we're in, where we're building a highly efficient house. So we still want to build that style house. We haven't not built that kind of house now for a while. We enjoy doing that. And then, so we'll still keep building those to maybe a few a year. And then we also want to go into doing some larger commercial projects as well.
Awesome.
So we'll do that with Chris probably.
Well, and shout out to Samantha, your wife, who has been a saint for accommodating all of your moves. So every time they've bought and sold, and
that's awesome.
I don't think I could be married to anybody else. They would have left by now. Not that I don't think I'm that mean. It just
takes a lot.
Like I don't know. I just
it is what it is.
I don't like sitting around and thinking. I like getting
Yeah.
Just do let's do something.
Any spouse of an entrepreneur would understand your comments. It's a love. There's a lot of love invested into that.
But
relationship.
she does a lot with it now too. Like she's kind of become more. Like both kids are in school now, so she's more.
Perfect.
She's more involved in it. She enjoys doing it, and we argue sometimes, but
such is life. What about things that are rewarding? What has been the most rewarding thing for you on this journey of from where you started to where you are now?
I don't know. Probably like there is a sense of natural satisfaction when you build something and finish a project.
I will be 100% honest with you. I love the world of building because you can see exactly what it is that you built with your hands and your coordination and everyone else that was involved in the project. So
yeah, so like I enjoy that, and I enjoy that feeling, I guess, of just having something done and people are happy and it seems like a good product. So you have that sort of satisfaction. I do like working with the guys that I work with. Like they're all I say like work with because we kind of like I don't like to
call yourself the boss.
No, I don't mind that. I just but like I work with them mainly. Like they work along, they do their thing, and I half time when I go to work I'm cleaning or just helping them do whatever they're doing.
Sure.
It's so it's fun to go work with people like that way, and you can come and go when you want. But so and it's fun to help out the guys that work for you. Like one of our employees is flipping a house. It's nice to have the ability to the financial capability to be able to, hey, we'll help you out in this project, and
sure,
let's get you ahead because you're working with us, right? Like
I also heard you pulled everybody off some of your other projects, and I don't know if you pulled them off of the other projects, but you took the entire all of your guys and sent them over to that particular employee's house to help them get going.
Yeah, well, I didn't pull everybody away from our other projects.
No, I'm not saying. Yeah, I'm not saying it that
they're
way.
Still getting done.
That's not what I meant.
But yeah, we planned a day where we didn't have a lot going on, so we,
surprised them with let's get this all done.
Do a bunch of work over there,
which is a genuinely nice thing for an employer to do for their staff. That's all I was trying to say. I wasn't trying to. Sorry.
Sorry. Anything else?
No, I think that's great from my side.
No, this has been great. Thank you very much.
It's very insightful. And so for people who want to reach out, who want to learn more about building an energy efficient home, who would like to be on the list or just even be able to pick your brain, what's the best way for people to reach out to you?
They can just email me at ben@savagebuilds.ca.
Okay.
Shoot me an email, and if you want to have a chat, leave your phone number.
And I truly appreciate you coming in today, and thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks again. Cheers.
Okay.